Hello and welcome to Tré TV. Again, so very, very glad to have you here. So very glad to be in communication and conversation with you. We have come a long way together. We've enjoyed our first show and you have been just so supportive, so amazing, so responsive. Everything that we would want in community and conversation, you have done that and you have exceeded our expectation. The magazine is your story, and this is an extension of that story. We want to say we thank you for that, we love you for that, and we are here to continue this dialogue in making your community, your city, your state, your block, your neighborhood, your country a better place, one conversation at a time. We could not do this without a collective voice, and that voice is diverse, be it your nationality, your religion, your age, your geography. Those are not barriers for communication. Those are opportunities for us to better share and better engage. And I'm so excited by this show that we have in store for you. So excited by the amazing host and the complicated conversations that they are having on our behalf. This is not necessarily the easiest time as we come out of the pandemic. It is not necessarily anything that we can read out of a textbook. We are all trying to figure this out. But here at Tré TV, with your support, with your listening, with your participation, I think we can make this world a better place, one show at a time, one conversation at a time. Our first show will be, of course, People's Politics with Dawn, and I hope you enjoy her conversation about entrepreneurship. We all want to be an entrepreneur. Many of us have 2 and 3 business cards and lots of ventures on our plate, but how do you actually get contracts? How do you actually get funding for that? How do you participate with the government entities? How do you really turn that idea into a sustainable business that actually employs others? That is that first conversation. And of course, Healthline with Marlene McNeese is something not to be missed. And we could not forget, and you would love the actual episode by Barry Barnes, Life.Style. Stay with us, stay doing the work, stay resilient, stay committed to excellence, and stay here and watch this episode of Tré TV. Thanks and see you soon.
I'm a part of the prenatal care club now, taking all my STD tests.
Did you know your doctor's required by law to test you 3 times for syphilis and HIV?
Yes, my husband and I are making sure I get all 3 tests.
Good. Testing is the key to preventing congenital syphilis.
And good prenatal care is your first labor of love.
Glad to hear your husband is so involved.
Thank you. Yes, taking all my STD tests for syphilis is important to both of us. My prenatal promise is to prevent a stillbirth or miscarriage. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com. My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac with the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection with standard 3rd row seating for just $459 a month for 39-month lease with only $1 down. Or purchase and receive 1.9% APR for 60 months plus $2,500 bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway. Test drive the new 2021 Escalade today at Ron Carter Cadillac.
Smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Good day, good people. This is the People's Politics with Dawn Malone. I am your host, Dawn, and in this space, we have conversations about how you can up your civic engagement and hopefully share information that will allow you to advocate for what you want to see happening in and around your community. Today, I am so excited to have what I think is a very timely conversation. My in-studio guest, Commissioner Grady Prestage, Fort Bend County Commissioner Grady Prestage to be specific. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, John, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. So for those who may not know, give us just the high level about what your role as a commissioner is and kind of what that means for your constituents.
I'll give you a quick county government 101.
Thank you.
Texas has 254 counties.
Mm-hmm.
Every county, regardless of its population, has the same set of form of government. There's a commissioner's court, a 5-member board with a county judge and 4 commissioners elected from single-member precincts. That's the governing body of the county. There are a number of other statutory positions, county attorney, county treasurer, and each of them has a function. Mm-hmm. They report directly to the people, but the commissioner's court is the budgetary body of the county, so we have a lot of influence as to who gets what. Mm-hmm. And so every county is set up the same. But one unique thing about county government is that we do not have the authority to make laws or make ordinances. Everything that we can do is specifically prescribed for in the state's constitution and its statutes. So we can only do what the state legislature and the Constitution says that we can do. We can't make laws like a city. So that's the unique part about county government. It makes it simpler. It makes it less controversial because we don't have land use control. We can't do any zoning or tell you can't do whatever function on your land that you want to do, and that usually causes commotion. We don't have that authority, and so it makes it a little bit quieter and simpler. But it's a very, very effective and powerful form of local government. Okay, and so you said delegates who gets what. That leads us right into this conversation about infrastructure. So Biden administration is proposing and really still working through $1.6 trillion infrastructure plan, which would be unprecedented really since railways and in the interstate was really created, unprecedented infrastructure plan. So for those who really can't envision this, right? Like, how does that proposed 1.3 trillion really get trickled down through the states so that we as citizens are really seeing the impact, positive impact on our day-to-day lives? Like, how does that process work? Well, let's talk about the process. The federal government, which built the interstate system and does a lot of things on the state level through the gas tax. You know, you pay a tax on a gallon of gas that goes to Washington, and much of it comes back to the state of Texas. When it comes back to the state of Texas, it's federal money, even though it's collected in the state. And that leaves the federal government a lot of control as to how it's spent by certain guidelines. So that's fine. Those are the rules of engagement. That's fine. The federal government, aside from the interstate system, doesn't do a whole lot of infrastructure work. This bill, if it's passed, will provide a lot of much needed revenue to do a lot of projects. Now, I'm a registered civil engineer. I've been a registered civil engineer since the mid-'80s. So I understand infrastructure. This country's infrastructure is in bad shape. It's left to locals who are usually challenged as to finding the ability to fund some of these upgrades. Our bridges are in desperate need of repair. We have chronic flooding issues as a result of growth, but the infrastructure money is going to be critical to make us more competitive with the rest of the world. So I'm looking forward to it. It will probably be leveraged. There will probably be opportunities both for 100% funding from federal sources, but also to partner with the cities and the counties and the state to take that $1.5 trillion and stretch it even further to make much needed improvements to infrastructure. It's politics 101. Everybody knows and understands that they want the infrastructure bill. But I think they're playing the who's going to get credit game in Washington. I'm confident it'll work out.
our country needs this, and I think they'll come together in the very end and do it. And there'll be some political compromises so that all parties can walk away from the table happy. But I'm really looking forward to the infrastructure money.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting about this proposed bill too is that it's infrastructure in a new way, right? Includes broadband, which is as we saw with COVID, there's a major disparity in rural and some urban areas with access to broadband. So to include that as part of infrastructure, I think it's really progressive.
Well, as the federal government has always done things that the marketplace can't do. The marketplace is the driving factor. Don't get me wrong. The marketplace is what drives it. The railroads were a marketplace issue. They knew that goods and services had to be delivered around this country. But the federal government helped out by giving them certain authority, eminent domain, a lot of preferential tax treatment to provide what is an essential public service. Broadband is going to be the same way. It's a marketplace-driven deal. Cities have great broadband service because they're customer based there. So there are companies that invest in that infrastructure, provide a reliable service where the market is. The rural areas are the parts that are sort of uninhabited or less inhabited. It's a challenge for a company to make that pencil out. You just can't make money running fiber optic line or cell towers in some rural areas. That's where the federal government would step in and provide that funding for something that wouldn't be a market-driven effort, but it would be underwritten by the federal government as a matter of good federal policy. Yeah.
And so something else that I just want to get your take on is that the Biden administration has highlighted the fact that should this infrastructure bill pass, it will be an opportunity for underserved communities, especially communities of color, to participate in really enhanced diversity and inclusion efforts, so that as you're building, right, not building fiber optics, running fiber optics, or building bridges and things like that, there's a major push for diversity and inclusion. So being that you are a civil engineer, tell me about historically have you seen these types of programs really work, and how do we really go about taking advantage of those opportunities?
Well, one thing I have to say that the federal government has done an excellent job of inclusion, regardless to the administration. There's some rules and regulations that are codified, that are part of the fabric of federal procurement that gives opportunities to historically underutilized businesses. Local government, which we deal with most of the time, doesn't necessarily have a great track record on that. I mean, politics is the science of who gets what. And so, just the fact that there's a road there, most people don't care, as long as it gets you from point A to point B. The politics comes in as to who's going to design, who's going to build, who's going to make money off of that asset that goes on the ground. Local government, is really left up to the devise of the locals. And unless there's a significant number of people who will push for inclusion of historically underutilized businesses, it usually doesn't happen. But with federal dollars, when they come down, they have those conditions on it that you must be somewhat inclusive. So the federal government has been a saving grace when it comes to minority and women-owned businesses in this country. So thank goodness that the $1.5 trillion in stimulus money, or whatever that number comes out to be, will have those strings on it. So there's an opportunity for inclusion. The challenge is a lot of us don't do those type of businesses. We usually find that professional services, we can usually do pretty well. Engineers and architects and accountants and various other type of consulting opportunities are easy to get in and easy for us to find business. The problem comes when it comes to contracting and commodities, where you have to have enough capital, insurance, and bonding to competitively bid for those projects. Professional services is more of a subjective selection. If you're qualified and you got the competence and you got the relationship, you can get selected, particularly if there are instances where there are people who look like you who are making those decisions. And all things being equal, you're qualified, I'll give you an opportunity. Contracting and commodities are a little different. They're usually legally based on a competitive bidding criteria where the lowest responsible bid gets the work. And that's a tough line of work. And you don't find a lot of minority businesses who have the bonding capacity to do it. There are some out there, but as a percentage of our population, we're very underrepresented.
Okay, so we're gonna pause just for one moment. I wanna keep rolling on this track when we come back about really federal and local government, and hopefully also inform people on ways that they can continue to stay engaged on the local level and why they should do that. So we will be right back with Commissioner Grady Prestage. Stay tuned.
I'm a part of the Prenatal Care Club now, taking all my STD tests.
Did you know your doctor's required by law to test you 3 times for syphilis and HIV?
Yes, my husband and I are making sure I get all 3 tests.
Good. Testing is the key to preventing congenital syphilis.
And good prenatal care is your first labor of love.
Glad to hear your husband is so involved.
Thank you. Yes, taking all my STD tests for syphilis is important to both of us. My prenatal promise is to prevent a stillbirth or miscarriage. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com. My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month. Both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac with the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection with standard 3rd row seating for just $459 a month for 39-month lease with only $1 down. Or purchase and receive 1.9% APR for 60 months plus $2,500 bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway. Test drive the new 2021 Escalade today at Ron Carter Cadillac.
Smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
We are back with Commissioner Grady Prestage. Thank you for continuing to join us today. So before we took a quick break, we were talking about, you're kind of giving us a rundown between the federal government and local government. We were talking in the context of diversity and inclusion. I want to pivot for a moment because, as you mentioned at the beginning of the segment, you were kind of talking about the power structure when it comes to local government. And when we think about voting, voting polls and numbers will show that it often happens that people are very amped up to vote every 4 years, right? And more presidential elections, but sometimes those local elections, they get forgotten about, but they're oftentimes the most impactful. What are some things that you would kind of some nuggets that you would share with people about why it's so important to stay connected with your local government and really stay engaged?
Well, local government is where the rubber hits the road. It's important who's the president of the United States. It does matter who your congressional representatives are, but your daily lives are probably more affected by what happens at your local school board, your city council, your commission's court. And in Texas, a phenomenon is your municipal utility district, your MUD district. In unincorporated areas, and much of this state is not in cities. In Fort Bend County, for instance, my county, you've got 850 or so thousand people. But of that, probably 60% of it is in an unincorporated area, that population. And so counties can only do so many things. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of control over development. You follow the development rules, then you can do what you want to do. We don't have ability to make any laws. But the provision of public water and sewer services, which is a basic development, no water and sewer, no civilization. And so we have these municipal utility districts that are often created by developers. who control those boards until residents move in and the residents take over those boards. And the provision of water and sewer services is very, very political, very political. Most people don't participate in mud district elections. That election will be held, and if there are a dozen people that show up to decide who's get elected, then that's where the power lies. And it's one of your biggest tax bills, for those of you who live in mud districts. So it is kept that way for a reason, but it's incumbent upon us to let folks know that participate in all elections. They all matter. It's your money. You've got to find out what's going on. There's significant opportunities for folks to do business with these mud districts if we only knew, or if we had control of the board. And there are instances where there are totally minority neighborhoods that have very little minority representation on it because they choose not to participate. They keep their eye on the big prize, the presidential election, but every year there's some type of municipal election with a city or school district, or a county election, and we need to participate, really, because if you don't participate, you don't get your fair share. And I'll confess, I've been in office for 30 years. I try to serve everybody, but the person who gets me here and keeps me here, I'm going to pay a particular attention to. And we know who they are. We know who you are. We know who votes. All the data is available. The habitual voters really have a powerful voice because they can make us jump, make us do what we want to do. If not, they'll find somebody else. And I don't want that. I don't want that.
No, you don't want that.
I don't want that.
Can you quickly share, because you've said Commissioner's Court twice, I just want to make sure the viewers and everyone knows what happens in Commissioner's Court.
Okay, we have an agenda which is posted 72 hours before the meeting. We can't talk about it with each other before the meeting, okay? And we get there, 5 members, you need 3 votes to get anything passed. So the first thing you have to know when you get to be a county commissioner is how to count to 3. You can have the best idea in the world, but unless you can get somebody to second your motion and another person to vote for it, it's just a good idea. It doesn't become reality. So relationships are very, very important. You can be competent, yes. You can have the best idea in the world, but unless you can get your relationship established where you can get votes to get things done, it's kind of moot point. And most votes we have are 5-0. Most things are just so cut and dry. There's a pothole. Are we going to fix it? Or are we going to look at it? Okay, well, we're going to fix it. Okay, if the jail is overcrowded, we need to build another jail? Okay, we'll build another jail. If the courts are overcrowded, are we going to build another court? Yes or no. If there's a public health outbreak, are we going to fund our public health department where they have the epidemiologists and the people to address those issues? Yes or no? It's not partisan. Even though we're partisan elected officials, most things boil down to doing what you need to do to maintain the quality of life in your community. And so typically that's what happens. But who's in there makes a big difference, because as you provide these services, sometimes it's important to have some diversity as to who gets a chance to do business with the county, who the department heads are who run these programs that we select. And I'll admit that my being here so long helps me have the adequate input to make sure that there's inclusion from all types of folks in Fort Bend County. We have the most diverse county in the country, roughly 25% Hispanic, 21% Black, and almost 20% Asian. It's very, very diverse. But prior to 1990, when I arrived there, you had no Black department heads. You had nobody doing business with the county who weren't Anglo. Fast forward to today, we've got a pretty diverse contract base, department heads, and it reflects our citizenry. So being there matters.
It's good. It's good news that you noticed throughout your tenure a change, because both of those things are important. Who works in government and who's working in government in terms of professional services.
And I want to add something, and this might be, once people are introduced and prove that they're capable, sometimes my work is done. There have been relationships forged between minority vendors and Anglo elected officials and department heads that I can't break those bonds, because they've developed new relationships and they've proven themselves and they've done exemplary jobs, because a lot of times you have to do better to get the credit. And so they step forward and do a great job. I don't have to intervene anymore. they go straight to those individuals and they develop those relationships that help them to continue to do business with the county.
Awesome, that's great. So one thing I want to make sure we highlight is that you have been the most influential, I would say, in Fort Bend as it relates to the Boys and Girls Clubs. And you opened the first Boys and Girls Club in Fort Bend, but most recently the third. So talk about that work a bit, different outside of your work as a county commissioner, but just tell us about that a little bit.
Well, it's part and parcel with my work as a commissioner, and that's my heart. The Boys and Girls Club organization is a great organization. And my involvement there came about as a result of my constituents asking me for certain services, for community centers or something for children, for their kids. And we went from a rural county to an urban county pretty much overnight. And the things that you had in the urban county, like Harris County, we just didn't have. And we weren't set up to do community centers. But with the Boys and Girls Club, I found a partner who could run these programs, who had expertise, national expertise in doing so. So it left us to just do the bricks and mortar. Building a building is relatively easy. You're just going to build the building. Programming activities is hard. That's daily combat. Something changes every day. Preferences, behavior of our children, the money to run these programs, that's tough work. You can a lot of times find someone with money who'll be willing to pay for a building, to donate a building if they have their name on it. But they won't give you a penny for programming. That's the hard part. So we engaged with the Boys and Girls Club, and we built a club around 2000, the year 2000. It was very, very successful. We had another community center that we did a poor job of running that we turned into a Boys and Girls Club, and it's booming. We just built a third one that we opened up, the one you mentioned, and we have a fourth one that's being built in Rosenberg right now, and the planning is going on right now. It's a very good partnership, so much so that I joined the board of the Boys and Girls of Greater Houston, and I can help make what I did out here as my role as a commissioner happen in other communities in the Houston region. And I'm very happy to do it. We're looking at some sites in Southwest Houston, and these are in predominantly black and brown communities. That's where the bulk of kids come from, and it's a beautiful thing. You come there after school, you see kids playing basketball, you see them on computers, you see them doing arts and craft, you see them doing dance, you see them just engaging with each other in a healthy, safe environment. And you ask yourself, but for this location, where would they be? And I suspect that they probably can be in some not so healthy situations. And so I'm really a big advocate for Boys and Girls Club. It's really changed my life.
That's awesome. Well, Commissioner, thank you. One, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Sounds like you're doing some great work for your constituents, and which impact the city of Houston as a whole. And maybe we'll talk more about the Boys and Girls Club and those partnerships, because I know how that programming and those relationships that can be. So I want to say thank you again to Commissioner Grady Prestage, and stay tuned for Healthline with Marlene.
I'm a part of the Prenatal Care Club now, taking all my STD tests.
Did you know your doctor's required by law to test you 3 times for syphilis and HIV?
Yes, my husband and I are making sure I get all 3 tests.
Good. Testing is the key to preventing congenital syphilis.
And good prenatal care is your first labor of love.
Glad to hear your husband is so involved.
Thank you. Yes, taking all my STD tests for syphilis is important to both of us. My prenatal promise is to prevent a stillbirth or miscarriage. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com. My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Move Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month. Both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac with the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection with standard third row seating for just $459 a month for 39-month lease with only $1 down. Or purchase and receive 1.9% APR for 60 months plus $2,500 bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway. Test drive the new 2021 Escalade today at Ron Carter Cadillac.
Smarter when you shop Ron Carter. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Have you heard about Hero Go TV offering free TV?
Welcome to Healthline with Marlene McNeese, your lifeline to improve your health. Every week, it is my mission to bring you important life-giving topics and information and resources. I want to have real conversations, real talk, and I'm excited to be able to continue that with you today. Our topic today is an important one, but I'm excited because of the guest I have to kind of walk us through it. Our topic centers around ending the HIV epidemic. For those who may not be aware or may be hearing that phrase for the first time, yes, it is something we have begun to celebrate. The idea that we have now marked this June of 2021, the 40-year anniversary of the first cases which have later became known as AIDS, been officially reported in the United States. Back then, there were 5 young gay men in Los Angeles who had an unusual form of lung infection, what we later became known as PCP, a rare form of pneumonia. And since then, more than 700 United States citizens have died from HIV. And so part of what we know and part of what we hope is that we've grown with our ability to treat. The prognosis is not a death sentence anymore. We have effective ways to prevent HIV, and now we have effective ways to prevent HIV clinically. And so now we're talking about ending the HIV epidemic. But is that access and is that ability to end it the same for all people? We are going to unpack it. I am excited to welcome to the show today Ms. Venita Ray, Co-Executive Director of the Positive Women's Network. Thank you so much for joining me today, Venita.
Thank you for having me, Marlene.
Absolutely. Let's get to it and talk about just a little bit about you and how you came into this movement and your organization with the Positive Women's Network.
Okay. So my entree into HIV came by way of a diagnosis. Okay. I think that happens for a lot of folks. Some folks get here by passion, some folks get here because our journey takes us this way. I was an attorney in DC practicing, and in April 2nd, 2003, a routine physical, got this call that said, we need you to come in and talk about your test results. Yeah. And for some reason, I immediately knew, and I said, well, can you tell me more? And she wouldn't. And I said, is it the HIV test? And she got quiet. Wow. And it changed my life. I was in DC doing my thing, and it took me 4 years to come to terms with my HIV diagnosis. I ended up leaving DC and moving to Houston because my daughter was here. You know, I did 4 years of darkness and dealing with the stigma and the shame and all this and not wanting to accept it, and got here and decided to live again, and came in touch with folks like you and others and got involved, and it's become personal and professional that I do this work. And started in it a little bit differently in terms of working here and doing some work with one of the FQHCs here and stuff, but found Positive Women's Network because went to AIDS Watch, and these women was talking cash shit. I mean, they were not apologetic. It was the first time I seen women who were roaring and telling people to stop, listen, and they were going to be the deciders of what happens for them. And I went to see who these folks were, and it was a Positive Women's Network. And I just hadn't seen that kind of power and fire. And I came back to Houston determined to start a chapter here. Little did I know, we started a chapter in 2005 in Houston, then it became a Texas chapter in 2006. And then I got on the board of directors. And in 2018, I became a deputy director and then now co-executive director. We are the only national membership organization for women and people of trans experience living with HIV. We're unapologetically about social and racial justice, gender justice, and economic justice. And we do all this with an intersectional approach using a human rights lens. So we are a national organization, and we do work at the policy level, at the federal, state level, and then we are about building leadership capacity of our members. Our goal is that we prepare our women to be at those decision-making tables, because no decision about us should be made without us. We need to bring that gender and racial justice lens to this movement. And so it is a ferocious organization that I'm proud to lead.
And you know, I've watched you, and I've watched the organization for many years, and really there's so much to unpack right there, because what you said, I didn't want the discussion today to center around HIV basics. We have a lot out there already that people may be familiar with, but the reality now that we've got, like the clinical tools, as I said, to actually end this epidemic. But what we don't necessarily have are the things that you just kind of alluded to and described. The idea that it really will take political will and a racial and social justice approach to actually tackle the next level of things to end the epidemic for some communities. So I really want you to share a little bit more about what that looks like. What do you see needs to happen for, you know, Black and brown people like you and I to truly see the benefits, as some communities in some places around the world have already seen, you know, advances in places where they are actually ending the epidemic? What do we need to do here in the United States?
So here, in other places I can't really comment on, but here we know that the epidemic looks like me. It's primarily Black and brown, but when we're talking about it, and I've been on planning council, whatever, the only time we mentioned race was in the data. We show the data, and I always get a little squirmy, and then we go on to talking solutions and stuff, and we look at this epidemic like it impacts everybody the same.
That's right.
Even this 40-year anniversary that just passed, today's show, Joy, everybody, nobody had a woman up there. It was all either white or Black gay men, cis. And it's like we're invisible, first of all. And, you know, so let's just get that on the table. But one of the things we don't talk about a lot is, if this epidemic looks primarily Black and brown, why aren't we talking about race, racism, and discrimination? What I don't see here, and we talk about the biomedical tools, and you just talked about them, but if those would get us there alone, why aren't we there?
That's right.
Yeah, if testing and prevention and education could get us there, why aren't we there? I think we need to take the step back and really look at this. And to me, HIV is a racial justice issue. You know, I remember leading the ending the epidemic in 2016. You were there.
That's
and
right.
The prevention group you ran, it was like you guys focused on race too. And, you know, it forced me to do a lot of thinking since then. And because in the middle of it, I went, something ain't right.
That's right.
Because we weren't looking at it that way. How can you, if poverty is one of the primary indicators, and who are the people primarily in poverty? And why are they there? Why, you know, the question is, why does HIV primarily impact Black and brown people? Is it Black condomless sex only? It can't be.
No.
Everybody's having sex. And so most of the messages are about these quick fixes, take a pill, topical, versus, to me, HIV is, when you look at root cause analysis, HIV is a symptom of broader social and structural issues.
That's right.
And if we can put Band-Aids on, we can take a pill, I could take a pill, we can put on a condom, but are we really dealing with the root causes of housing, racism, discrimination, the things that make people more vulnerable?
Employment, all those issues. You're so right.
And we don't talk about those.
And we don't.
When we're talking about ending the epidemic.
And that's why, I wanted us to talk a little bit today about it. And I know, and I've already told you, I'm going to need to have you come back because it's too important. These issues are too big. And I think it's worthwhile unpacking because if we are serious about affecting health issues in our community, we've got to approach it from more than just the medical
We
point of view.
really do. I mean, we've been talking about health disparities, and folks have been saying that COVID just revealed them again.
That's right.
I mean, but why are we just spinning on this same stuff? I mean, we look at voter suppression, we're looking at gender-based violence, and it's all meant to oppress. There's a reason why the South is the center of the epidemic, because of the rural communities, political conservative governments, the lack of so much that
and
folks
so
need.
much of that we're seeing playing out in the headlines today. I know we are really out of time and we are wrapping up our conversation today, Venita, but seriously, I really want you to share, at least with our audience, how can people get in touch with you and the Positive Women's Network?
Okay, you're right. We got to come back because we need to talk about people in leadership, who making these decisions too. They don't look like me always.
Absolutely.
But you can reach me. pwn-usa.org is our website. We have tons of resources. A lot of these statements that I'm talking about in terms of racial justice and what folks can do. You can reach me at venita@pwn-usa.org. I would love to hear from folks. I would love to talk to people about this. You can't say enough because HIV is a racial justice issue if you ain't heard nothing else today.
That's right. Thank you so much, Venita, for joining us today. Thank you, our listening audience, for joining in. There's so much to unpack here, but I'm grateful we started the conversation. And so please do not go anywhere. Right after the break, we have Lifestyle with Barry Barnes. So you don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
I'm a part of the Prenatal Care Club now, taking all my STD tests.
Did you know your doctor's required by law to test you 3 times for syphilis and HIV?
Yes, my husband and I are making sure I get all 3 tests.
Good. Testing is the key to preventing congenital syphilis.
And good prenatal care is your first labor of love.
Glad to hear your husband is so involved.
Thank you. Yes, taking all my STD tests for syphilis is important to both of us. My prenatal promise is to prevent a stillbirth or miscarriage. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com. My prenatal promise is to make sure my baby is safe and healthy, because I know it is possible to acquire syphilis, HIV, or other STDs without knowing it. Getting tested is my very first chance to protect my baby. Doctors are required to give expectant mothers 3 separate tests for syphilis. If you're pregnant, ask your doctor if you're being tested properly for syphilis and other STDs. Congenital syphilis can lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or an infant death. Don't risk your baby's health. To find out more, visit myprenatalpromise.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac. Drive the new 2021 Cadillac XT4 Luxury Collection for only $319 a month. The new 2021 Cadillac XT5 Luxury Collection for only $399 a month. Both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase either and enjoy 1.9% APR for 60 months plus bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway.
Shop smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Move up at Ron Carter Cadillac with the new 2021 XT6 Luxury Collection with standard 3rd row seating for just $459 a month for 39-month lease with only $1 down. Or purchase and receive 1.9% APR for 60 months plus $2,500 bonus cash. Gulf Freeway, just 2 minutes south of the Beltway. Test drive the new 2021 Escalade today at Ron Carter Cadillac.
Smarter when you shop Ron Carter. Ron Carter Cadillac.com.
Have you heard about Hero Go TV offering free TV?
Hey, it's Barry Barnes, and welcome to Life.Style. That's where I like to hang out at. And we're gonna have a good time today. I wanna say thank you once again for returning and hanging out with us, because we're gonna have some fun today. And speaking of fun, I decided to give you guys a little glimpse of what I think is fantastic. And that's my top 10 beauty tips. But it's inner outer. Because we make mistakes sometimes and think it's all about what we could do on the outside. I could put on a nice jacket and I can make my hair look fly. I look cute, don't I? Stop it, you're too kind. Anyway, I could do all of that and make that happen. But if your inside does not match your outside, then you're only half pretty. And we want you fully pretty when I get done. So out of the 10 top, I brought 5 of my favorites. You ready for one? Okay, so this is Barry's top 10 outer and inner beauty tips. For outer, I need you to wash your face twice a day and put on the proper treatment that you need. Okay, so don't listen to the labels, don't go crazy looking for stuff that you don't need. Just get the stuff that works for you. And it doesn't have to be a label, because if it works, it's working. Now, that's that outer stuff. Let's talk about the inner stuff. You need to clear your mind. That's what I said. At the end of the day, so that you are not bringing your past into the next day. Leave that stuff behind. Start your day fresh, just like you wash your face, wash your mind. How about that? You like that? You washing your mind? I'm washing mine. 2, this is crazy. We go in stores, we be shopping, doing stuff, going crazy. Salesperson comes up, oh, get this, they show you this, they show you that. Don't be tricked. It's a dirty trick. Get what you need. Get what you require. If you listen to the people in the stores, they're gonna have you spending 2 hours trying to get pretty every day. Keep your regimen simple. That's all you gotta do. Keep it simple, nice, easy. Come on in, wash your face, do a little laugh, boom, 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 out. Okay, I love that. For that inner piece, here we go again. Beware of sheep's and wolf's clothing. Not everybody's out for your good. So you gotta take care of yourself. But know who you are and let yourself and the people that you know allow to be themselves. Because that's gonna get you through. Because they have to be who they are for you to be who you are. How about that? I'm me, you. 3, please follow that regimen of drinking water every day. Every day, all day long, day, night, afternoon, with lunch, with dinner. Drink the water. Come on, y'all. Drink the water. And I was going to say it's free, but you know it ain't. You know it ain't free. But drink the water. That's so important. It's just, it makes all this work. I mean, look, a gallon of water every day. Okay, so we talked about how we're going to do that outer. The inner is to allow the goodness to flow through your mind, body, and soul. So we fill it with water. That's exterior. That makes the skin pretty, the teeth white. Okay. But when you start working on that mind thing, that's internal. Keep your stuff right. Keep your mind clear so it's not thirsty. 4, adequate rest and nutrition. Simple, easy. Eat right, live right, okay? Life.okay, style, okay? So it's very simple. It's not complicated. It's not complicated, people, okay? Just eat the right things. A little exercise, good rest, very important. Now for that internal stuff, and it gets a little gray sometimes, get adequate me time. Feed your mind to its fullest. All that stuff that you do does not work if you don't do this other stuff, okay? You need to fool your mind with good deeds and good thoughts. Just like drinking a glass of water, just like adequate nutrients. So we talked a little bit about everything. We're going to talk about exercise now to assure that this whole thing is right. A little exercise makes this tight, makes the skin right, makes the hair shiny. I'm silver, by the way. Sexy, ain't I? Cut it out. I am single, though. But that's for me, not for you, all right? Enjoy it though. I enjoy you. So we have to continuously, and this is that inner stuff, exercise the muscles of compassion, loyalty, patience, and most of all, love. These are the elements that make you better as an individual. And that's what's important. And I want to talk about real quick that whole piece about in or out of beauty. We get so tied up and confused thinking that it's all about what I can put on. I could wear anything, Gucci, Prada, Macy's, TJ Maxx, and be fabulous. I really can. But if my insides are funky, you heard the word, I said funky, and not Uncle Funky, okay? If that's not right, then it's not a complete circle, and you're not beautiful, and you can't feel beautiful. Hurt people hurt people. Pretty people attract pretty people. And you have to think about that. What are you delivering? What are you giving out? My show is life.style, and it's about us being fabulous and beautiful and confident. But those things you have to dress up your insides as well as your outsides. It doesn't work one way. You need both balances to make sure that you're a complete man and woman. And it's very important that you understand that both of those sides work hand in hand. They really, really do. You can't be pretty on the outside and think everybody's gonna love you. And what they're really falling in love with anyway is the inside, because that's what really counts. So those are my tips for today. It was just 5 out of my terrific 10, but we're running out of time and I couldn't give them you all, but I gave you what I had, which was my top 5, and I'm so glad you stopped back. You saw my sister earlier, Miss Marlene, give it to us on the health piece, and I just adore her so much. And I want to ask you to continue watching us and looking out for us, because we so need you every time we see you. So until the next time we see you again, remember, I'm Barry Barnes, life.style, where your life begins right here.